My name is Eugene Worley, and along with my wife Glenda, we have spent nearly 50 years in ministry in Ethiopia, Norway, the UK, and in the US. I'd like in these podcasts to share with you some of our experiences from those years. The Apostle Paul said in Romans 10:15, "And how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things." In this podcast, I'd like to share with you some of those experiences in traveling, visiting churches, and raising our missionary support. You know, every missionary story is unique, and in some respects, ours was no different than hundreds of other missionaries. Glenda and I started out with a strong sense of a call to the country of Ethiopia. We had to go through the approval process of our mission organization, Baptist Bible Fellowship International, based in Springfield, Missouri. There were age, health, and educational requirements. There was also at least a one-year internship requirement. We had both graduated from Bible college and had served 3 years on a church staff as well as planning a new church. At last, we cleared the hurdle of being approved as missionaries of the BBFI. It was 1967, but we still had to raise our support. The BBFI was merely an agency which provided us government recognition and was a channel through which our funds were processed. But we had to raise the funds, which meant visiting churches and seeking their support. That was a test of our faith, but it also built our faith as we had many experiences in that 13 months of deputation. So we started out, the three of us. Our son was 2.5 years old at the time. We didn't require a lot since we basically lived on the road. We lived off of our love offerings, which varied, but usually averaged about $25 per service. One of our first major trips was from Smithfield, North Carolina to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We had a tank of gas and $15 in our pocket. We were also loaded with snacks and other food items, but we made the trip without any problems. This was typical of the many trips we would make in the coming year. We normally stayed in people's homes. In fact, in one conference, the pastor asked us to stay in the home of an 80-year-old woman so Glenda could cook for her. That wasn't bad in itself, but the lady had to go through our bedroom to get to the bathroom. In that same conference, there was another missionary couple who were staying in a 3-bedroom trailer. They asked the pastor if we could stay with them, but he was afraid it would hurt the feelings of the lady we were staying with. In that same conference, Glenda made a collect call to her mom to see if we'd gotten any mail. This led the pastor to think that Glenda was homesick and would not make it on the mission field, being away from her mom. He asked her if she knew how to pick cotton, which apparently would qualify her as a missionary. I'm glad to say that this pastor was not typical of the pastors we met. Believe it or not, we passed the test with this pastor and actually received support from the church. We had another experience where we had traveled to Detroit, and we stayed in someone's vacant house. Ron came down with a chicken pox, so Glenda stayed with him while I went to the Wednesday night service. This particular church usually gave the missionary $25, but their mission account was depleted, so they took up an offering for me that night. As it turned out, there was a lady in the church who was partial to missionaries or preachers from North Carolina. And when the offering plates were passed that night, she gave a check for $100. This was slightly more than the $25 I expected to get. I was so excited that I went back to where we were staying and paid all of our bills with that one offering. In those days, we didn't even have a credit card, so we paid cash for everything. One Sunday evening, we were in Oklahoma, and the pastor asked us before the service to make a list of all of our toilet articles we would need for 4 years in Ethiopia. Can you imagine? Soap, shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste, and so forth. I don't know how you estimate or even figure how much shampoo you're going to use in 4 years. However, we worked on it. For example, we decided that if you used 1 tube of toothpaste each month, that would be 48 tubes in 4 years. He took his list and he asked how many would agree to buy a certain number of tubes of toothpaste. He did the same with all the other items until they were all promised. They also wanted to tell them what brands we preferred. About 1 month later, we received this box from that church filled with all of those things. We were able to ship it along with all the other things that we were shipping. This was just one of the many practical ways that churches got involved in foreign missions. In those days, we were advised to ship our clothing, household goods, and books. We shipped in 50-gallon drums that could be sealed. We also had some crates built and shipped mattresses. After 50 years, we both still have memories of those barrels on the front porch of my dad's house. We filled those barrels, and then my dad put a jack on top of the barrel that reached the roof of the porch, and he closed those barrels. It didn't occur to us at the time that anything fragile would be crushed. As it turned out, our Christmas decorations survived, but a few of our dishes didn't. We were on the road for 13 months, and in that time raised approximately $700 monthly support, though some more came in after we arrived on the field. We had the funds for our tickets, and we were ready to go. God was good, and we could only thank Him for His goodness. The Apostle Paul thanked the Philippians for their support. Philippians 4:17, not because I desire a gift, but I desire fruit that may abound to your account. Then in verse 19 he said, but my God shall supply all your need according to His riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Though we did not follow Hudson Taylor's philosophy of never asking for funds, we do believe that his motto that he was famous for was still true. God's work, done in God's way, will never lack for supplies. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you'll download the next one when I talk about our trip to Ethiopia.